Hello people, welcome back again. This is another video that I'm going to do. This one is called the judging game. I said I was going to talk about this in my last video, and yeah, we're going to get straight to it basically. The first thing I want to talk about before we get into that is I want to talk about an experience I had the other day on YouTube. Actually, I was watching a video and some guy is he's reviewing a computer game, basically one of the latest games that's come out, but then about 30 seconds into the video he shows a clip of the game and he starts swearing. He's swearing a lot, and then he turns around and he says, "I'm just being real." Right? And I had a bit of an issue with that. Before we get into this whole judging game thing, a lot of people seem to think that being real is being rude, and they're not. Being real and rude are two completely different things. They're not. They don't go together. Yeah. Is it possible that sometimes when you're being real, you're angry? Yeah. Is it possible that sometimes that through your anger, you might be a little bit frustrated? And because you're frustrated, it might cause you to swear. It might cause you to insult someone. These things may happen, but those things happen out of choice. Those things happen really because your tolerance and also self-control isn't it's not as strong as you hope it to be. Maybe that current situation causes you to flip out or whatever, and you're acting out a character. But I can definitely tell you that being real and being rude are completely two different things, and I think that's important. Because it's not the only time. I remember going to a cousin's birthday party, and this girl was drinking, and she's nice attractive girl, she's drinking, and then all of a sudden she says, boy, you know what, when I drink, I have to start telling people, I have to start being real. And she wasn't saying it in a positive way, she was saying it in, I'm gonna cause trouble. So for some odd reason, people have associated being real with being rude or a negative thing. Being real, for me personally, that's 100% what I'm about. And I don't see, if it isn't that way, then I don't want it around me. So this is the purpose of why I'm saying these things to you. Sometimes I have a lot of people that come around to see me. They don't really know about my circumstances, which I've kind of explained in the previous videos. And every now and then they feel that they want to be, real with me, basically. And it comes across where sometimes they're being, I know it's out of love, but sometimes it comes across like they're being rude in a sense. And then I have to turn around and have to say to those people, but you haven't done this, you haven't done that, you haven't sorted these things out. Because I don't believe in being malicious. I stopped that a long time ago. I just believe in generally being real. If I say something to you, it's not out of me being malicious. I don't believe in being malicious. If I say something today, then I'll probably say the same thing to you in a month's time. And what I mean by that is, I'm not going to apologize for saying it. I said it because it was real. I'm not going to say, oh, I said it then to hurt you. I don't do things to hurt people. And this is where this whole judging game starts, really. Now, before we get into this judging game, I want to start more on a positive note. We're going to start with the positives first, and we're going to get into the uplifting game. Before we get into the negative side of things, like what is the judging game, we're going to get into the uplifting game. What is the uplifting game? The uplifting game is basically, it's kind of being a leader. It's kind of your local community hero. People say, oh, these people on stars, like these people on TV are stars, kind of like what do you call it, like Big Brother and things like that. Oh, they're stars now. In my eyes, the only stars are people in the local community that are trying to uplift it, that are trying to to help the younger generation stay off the streets, that are helping the old lady across the road, that are opening doors for people, opening doors, courtesy, respect. Those are what I call genuine, leaders of our communities, the stars of our community. So the uplifting game it's kind of a part. I kind of briefly explained about the perfection philosophy in the beginning, and the uplifting game is kind of falls into that, because the uplifting game is a lot harder than the judging game. The judging game is simply, I see it and I don't think, and I just simply say what's on my mind. Where the uplifting game is where you put a little bit more thought into it. You have to kind of think, you almost have to plan how you're going to approach it. You're giving someone advice and you're kind of approaching how you're giving advice. The first thing I would say to people is, sometimes if you don't know about something, just simply say you don't know. There's many times people have come to me for things and I just don't know. Like I said in my last video, there's many things, like I kind of dibbled and dabbled in researching mental health and things like that, but I don't know most of the answers to it, and I'll tell you, I simply don't know. I don't know what advice to give you. It's okay sometimes in life to say you simply don't know. You can say, I'll refer you to this person, I'll refer you to that person. But I think sometimes when people say, oh they do know, and they have little experience on the subject that they're talking about, you're not really helping someone. If you give someone advice, and you haven't really gone through the advice that you're given, that's not really helping someone. So the uplifting game is more or less about thinking about the advice you're about to give someone. Think of it like they were your little brother, or someone that you truly genuinely care for, and think about the advice you're about to give them. And you don't want to kind of beat them up. You want to approach the situation on a positive note. You want to. I myself try to inspire people, so I don't believe in you can't do anything. I believe anyone can do whatever they want to do. I believe if you want to become a doctor, you can become one. I just believe that it may take one person 1 year, and it may take somebody else 4 years. But whatever you want to achieve in life, though, I believe it is possible. And I'm the type of person where I'll never tell someone that this doesn't work for them. What I will say to that person, though, is that you may suddenly get to whatever you achieved, and you can achieve it, it just may not work out for you. Maybe this isn't what it's not working out in the long run. It may not be suitable for you, but I'd never tell someone you can't achieve that. That's kind of a way of uplifting people. Another way, so let me try to give you an example. Right, if I went to someone's house and maybe they were drinking, maybe they were drinking too much or something like that, I'm not going to turn around and say to them, you're drunk, you're this, you're that, look at you, you're this. I'm not going to speak to them that way. What I'm going to do is say to them, a lot of the times that you're drinking alcohol, you are a little bit vulnerable, kind of thing, and you're not always looking the best. It's almost like it's taking a lot out of you. So it's about approaching it in a way where you genuinely care, and it's not something that's just quickly off the top of your head. You've actually thought it through. But the uplifting game, when you do actually start to speak to people, I would say properly, it is what I would regard as a leadership quality. You can instantly look at someone like that and say, right, that person can be a leader. If I would rely on that person to organize this, to take me to this place, because I know they generally have my back. They're not just going to quickly tell me do this, do that, and it kind of blows up in my face. And people need to understand that a lot of the times that we always kind of will always assuming that everyone is like us. Oh, but I did it in 5 seconds, but I did it in 10 seconds. So sometimes they give they give, I wouldn't say bad advice, but they give advice where they're assuming that the person has the same level or experience that they have, or maybe the same. Sometimes it can even be boils down to wisdom. They assume the person has the same wisdom, maybe the same wit, maybe the same intelligence, and are able to suddenly figure it out for themselves, you know. So sometimes the uplifting game is about carefully explaining to a person the pros and the cons of things as well. But that's a little bit about the uplifting game. Now we're going to go into what is the judging game, you know. And the judging game, now that we've gone through the uplifting game, is very simply put, it's when you're giving advice and it's negative, it's spiteful, it's condescending. It's coming across as though you're better than the person, you know. Or sometimes it can be giving him reckless advice, like I just mentioned, you haven't really thought it through. So the advice could lead someone into a situation where basically it's when you don't have the best interest, you don't have that person's best interest at heart, you know, because if you did, you wouldn't just quickly say, oh, just do this, just do that. When people come to me with wanting advice, they know I generally sit down and I listen to it and I will think it through. I won't just say, oh, just quickly do this or quickly do that. I look at it from where I'd be, how I would deal with things, and I will explain it to them. I say, if it was me personally, I would do this. So the judging game is basically when you don't really have someone's best interest at heart, but rather than actually tell them that, you'll give them bad advice, you know. If I was in that situation where I didn't really take to a person and they asked me for advice, I would just tell them straight, look, I don't know, you might have to go and ask someone else, to be honest with you. But I'm not going to give them advice if I don't really respect them, in a sense, because that comes across as being kind of two-faced, you know. So the judging game is almost, but I think it's a very easy thing to do. I think that sometimes we generally, you know, sometimes it can be gossip. It can be a situation where you're gossiping about someone. So these things are normal, but I think that generally, if someone comes to you or you have a general concern about someone, you should generally find out about that person before you start judging them. You know, the world would be a hell of a lot better place as far as I'm concerned. And I think that we're living in a world where everyone's kind of pretending to be something that they're not, you know. And this is why this is the main important thing about this judging game thing, is that a lot of the times when people walk into rooms, and I'll give you two quick examples before I kind of end this video, and that was, I had a friend that came into a room, we're all sitting down there. It's a very loose environment. Some of us are talking about problems, this or that. One particular person sitting down there and they're judging this one other person for being open about how he feels or whatever the issue was. And I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, why is he being so harsh? Like, he's saying only a fool would do that, only an idiot would do that, only a homosexual, only. And again, this is what I'm trying to say about the judging game, you know. And I can tell you that that particular person was judging someone on something that they've done. You know, I'm not saying they continue to do it, but they're judging someone on something that they've done themselves. And it got to a point where I had to turn around to that person and say, wait a minute here, but I remember you saying you did this. And it's bad when you're playing that judging game and you kind of get exposed, you know what I mean, to be almost kind of fraudulent or fraud or fake, you know, because I think that when you do get found out to be these things, it's very hard to recover. It's very hard to kind of gain back that self-esteem, to walk into the room with your head held high. If you're someone that's walking into a room judging people on things that you do, it's stupid. It's stupid, and that's the point of this video, you know, is that it's bad, it's embarrassing, when someone behaves that way and then gets exposed, it's very hard to come back from that. You know, you're then labelled as someone that can't be taken seriously. Oh, John talks, man. Don't listen to him. He's probably done that yesterday, or he's probably, you know, it's the opposite of a leader, and that's the whole purpose of why I'm doing this video. You know. But anyway, thank you for listening. My next video will be on the NoFap that is coming up. Coming up in about 10 days, I'll do a video on NoFap. Well, a week from now. And thank you for listening. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Again, these videos are just food for thought, nothing more than that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you around in the next video. Peace.